a while to set up. Hello everyone, it's Shannon again, and I am here with the second chapter as well as the third chapter, because it's going to be real quick, of The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz. I may end up saying that name every single time I do these videos. So let's get started. So as I mentioned in the previous video for chapter 1 of this book, the second chapter is titled The Loss of Innocence. I'm not going to show you. I have the book down here because there are a few excerpts that I'm going to read that I thought were really important and resonated with me. But chapter 2, Loss of Innocence, is basically Don Miguel starting from the beginning, talking about how we develop these fears and how we develop these wounds. He calls them wounds in the book, throughout our childhood, and how us being domesticated as children has led to us now as adults not being able to give and receive love properly. So he, starts the chapter off normal, but then when it starts to take a turn, it's him giving examples. So he gives an example of a child and a mother, and, as I mentioned in the previous video, us as kids, when we're born into this world, we're supposed to naturally, as human beings and as people, as living beings on this planet, in this universe, we're supposed to naturally just want to explore life, be happy, and, little 2 and 3 year olds, they get mad, get over it real fast, real normal, real human interaction shit, because as a 2 or 3 year old, you're not taking things personally because you haven't been domesticated yet. But the domestication begins once you start to be punished and disciplined by your parents. In the book, he gives a short example of like a 2-year-old running around and then the mom chasing after them. And you know how kids, when they see, or toddlers, when they see their parent chasing after them, when their parent is being serious, in their head, they're like, oh, we're having fun. This is a game. So they're having excitement. And in the example, he takes it a step further and basically says, in that same breath, as the child is running, it starts to get serious. Now he's running in the street and there's traffic. Now the mom is really panicking because she doesn't want her son to die. Long story short, at the end, he gets a spanking. And that moment where he receives a spanking, that moment where he is disciplined physically, it sends shock through his body, obviously, because especially if you're a toddler, you're not really familiar with pain. With that first shock, it becomes a wound. It's now your first wound. And then the second part to that wound he mentions in the book is something called emotional poison. And emotional poison is everything that us adults who have been already domesticated pass on to these children. So that same child who now has a wound from the mother can receive emotional poison from a father who has another disciplinary experience that messes that child up emotionally and closes them off and makes them not trust people. So with the second example, he basically says the father, he has emotional poison already in him. He's coming home from work. He had a bad day. His toddler, who he usually is so sweet to and kind to, he sees in the living room playing around with his guitar. And nothing happens to the guitar, but the father is already freaking out, thinking that the child is going to mess the guitar up. So just out of, I don't even know the word I'm looking for, he naturally disciplines the child and spanks him. And that wound that he had from his mother is now being even more infected with emotional poison, because, what the child is thinking is, I didn't do anything wrong. And he's also thinking, okay, I'm kind of afraid of you. And little by little, that trust goes away. And because of that, it all leads to, like I said, us not being able to be loving toward one another naturally. Now you have this preconceived notion about almost everybody in your life because of these little experiences. I shouldn't say little, but because of these experiences with your parents. It just starts in the home and spreads everywhere, which most of us know. We know that we develop these emotional behaviors and patterns and conditioning from our homes and from our parents. But with that, unfortunately, it just continues to add up and build up and get worse and worse, to the point where here we are as millennials, we trust no one. It's all about I'm getting mines, and everybody's afraid of being played. And the whole point of love is that you're supposed to give love naturally without expecting anything in return. Love is not about selfishness. And even you requiring something from someone is a selfish act. If you love someone, you love them through almost anything. And even if they don't give you anything in return, if that's okay for you, that's love. With all that being said, this excerpt from The Loss of Innocence, Chapter 2, I thought was very interesting. So let me just read that to you real quickly. It says, your reaction might be fear. Your reaction might be anger or being shy or just crying. But that reaction is already emotional poison, because the normal reaction before domestication is that your daddy spanks you and you want to hit him back. You hit him back or just intend to put your hand up, and that makes your father even madder at you. The reaction of your father for just putting your hand up against him creates a worse punishment. Now you know he will destroy you. Now you are afraid of him, and you no longer defend yourself because you know it will only make things worse. Truth. Another thing, like I had just previously said about trust, they say in the book, or he says in the book, little by little we lose our innocence. We start to feel resentment, then we no longer forgive. And that's a very big part of all of this. Just like people say, and it sounds corny, you don't forgive others for them, to make them feel good. You forgive others to heal yourself and to give yourself peace, because we're all on this planet to love and to be loved. And the only way you can love and be loved is to let go and to open your heart, even if there's a possibility that someone can hurt you, because at the end of the day, it's not about them, it's about you. I also want to get just a tiny bit more back into the emotional poison aspect of this. He says here, emotional poison is created by our reaction to what we consider injustice. Those examples that I just mentioned to you, those situations he considers in the book injustices to the toddler. When the toddler gets spanked by his father for not even wrecking a guitar, but that was the father's reaction because he made an assumption that his child was going to ruin the guitar. That was a personal injustice to that child, because the child was just like, what the fuck, why was that? The emotional poison that is controlling our lives, the anger, the fear, the resentment, the jealousy, all of it is caused by how we react to it. And because we're feeling like we're being attacked, people have a need to defend themselves at times. And the whole purpose is to not react, to react with love, or at least try to. And if you don't want to react with love, then to just walk away from it because you know it's not good for you. Obviously, a toddler's not going to know that, but like I said, these are things and patterns that we develop over time, and things that needs to be broken. And the way that I want to go about it now, and am currently going about it, is not reacting. No matter how angry I'm feeling on the inside, not reacting has been helping me so much, like so fucking much. I want to read another quote from this book because there's so many like little brackets that I have in here, but I'm not going to read all of them. This one says, once we are full of emotional poison, we have the need to release it. And we practice releasing the poison by sending it to someone else. I don't even think I need to go deep into that. You know, those people who like to project their anger onto other people because it makes them feel better. And what's worse than sending that emotional poison to the person that you're actually mad at? Sending that emotional poison to a stranger because you can't release that poison to the person that upset you, which happens a lot. You see it today in today's society. People in power, sending hell of emotional poison worldwide to millions of people because for some reason it just feels better for them. I don't know. In their worlds, that's what they need to do in order to heal themselves. But that's not the true way to heal yourself. The only way to heal yourself is, say it with me, through love. The last thing I want to get into is Miguel mentions a concept, the judge, which is the voice that's in your head that's always judging you, that is judging everybody else because of how you were domesticated as a child, the judge. And then the other part of you is the victim, the part of you that says, oh, poor me, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not beautiful enough, I'm not whatever enough. That part of you is the victim. So you're not trying to be either. You're trying to erase both the judge and the victim. He also mentions the belief system. The belief system are all of those things that you were taught, whether religion, all the beliefs in your life that you have been taught by your parents. That is the belief system. And the life that we are born into, this system that we're in, the belief system, it's all a part of the same thing. And then your family chooses what is important to them and what isn't important to them, obviously. And the Toltecs call the belief system the parasite. And it says, the parasite is all those beliefs that make you suffer. Those beliefs are so strong that years later, when you learn new concepts and try to make your own decisions, you find those beliefs still control your life. And that's very important, because I see it today. I see it, well, not really my personal friends, but like people I've grown up with, the people I follow on social media. It's interesting because some of these very beliefs that they hold so strongly to them are limiting them in ways you can't even imagine, especially when it comes to relationships and careers, just living your life in general. People have these very, very strong beliefs, and they don't realize that these beliefs that they hold so dearly are the same things that are holding them back in life, you know? And it's because of that fear. People are afraid of change. People are afraid of growth. Growing is extremely painful. I'm speaking from personal experience, and I'm doing it right now, and it's still painful. You could change a million times, but growth, it's always going to hurt. Food for the parasite is the emotions that come from fear, right? And this I have to put out there because I see it once again in today's society. Everybody has this strong need to be right. So he says, we learn to be right and to make everyone else wrong. The need to be right is the result of trying to protect the image we want to project to the outside. That is so true. And this is probably one of the hardest things that I'm currently learning how to do. And it's not easy, but I'll be damned if I don't change it about myself, because I don't want to ride on this trend that we're on currently with call out culture, everybody feeling the need to check everybody else, when at the end of the day, we're all responsible for one person, and that's ourselves. We are only responsible for ourselves, unless obviously you have children. But even when your children get older, you're no longer responsible for who they are and who they choose to be. You can love them and care for them and protect them as much as you can, but people are people, and they're going to do what they want to do. And like I said in the last episode of this, we're all living in our own individual worlds. What you think is okay for you is not going to be okay for the next person. You are no longer a child. And if you have an abusive relationship, it is because you accept that abuse, because you believe you deserve it. No one in the world abuses you more than you abuse yourself. So real quick, just a background story about my personal self. It took me a really long time to understand that concept. And I used to get so triggered. Even I used to listen to that song, Bryson Tiller, Don't. I hated that line when he said, girlie, he only fucked you over because you let him. A part of me still sees both sides of that, because you don't necessarily let people, or you don't, when you meet someone for the first time, choose or think to yourself, oh yeah, like I hope he abuses the fuck out of me. You don't, that's not how it goes, you know? And I've been in a relationship in the past where somebody was one person and then months into it became a whole other person, like straight up 180. That is a possibility, that's a thing, and nobody chooses that. I personally didn't choose that. I didn't stand in the cafeteria waiting for this fucked up person to approach me. I didn't think he was fucked up for a long time until something happened that he didn't like, and then true colors happened. But back to the point I'm trying to make. It took me a long time to understand that concept of, you know, you letting people hurt you. Because it's true. We're not kids anymore. We have a decision to make. And the only reason why we don't make a lot of the right decisions that we know we should make, our gut feeling right decisions that we should make, is because of fear. It's because of what he's saying in this book. Fear ruins everything. When you do everything with fear, you're not really following your true life path, and you're not following the right direction of true love within yourself, so that you can properly love other people. That's just not how it works. So even though it's hard, and if it sounds really harsh, and you don't mean to hurt yourself, you are hurting yourself by choosing to be with somebody that is not giving you what you want. And at the end of the day, you can be mad at them, but it's best to not be, because you're making these decisions, and what's not right for you may be good for somebody else. So nothing has to be with ill will or bad intentions at the end of the day. It's best to not look at somebody and be like, you know what, you ain't shit, versus you are shit. You're not shit in my world to me, but you're shit for somebody else who wants what you're bringing to the table, but unfortunately it's not what I want to bring to the table. So like I said in the last video, we have to make this decision and part ways. In any type of relationship, friendship, even family members. You can break up from family members if they're not supporting you and caring for you. You don't have to stay in any situation you don't want to. And that's what I'm going to leave with chapter 2. Now on to chapter 3.